Hello, Namaskar and Adab to all my friends from your friend astrologer and guide Irfan, once more with you from your very own channel Astro Assurance. One important thing in life is about the goal in life, the purpose in life, what the direction in life we should be taking, where should we be moving, and what are the opportunities that life gives us. However, one important thing also is about whether the purpose of our life will be served, whether we have an opportunity of salvation to be able to move towards moksha and leave a legacy behind, leave a positive legacy behind, and do good things, and people should remember us with good examples, and maybe look at us also as people they look up to, being a mentor or being a leader or somebody who is a guide for them and a positive guide. So that is definitely everybody's wish. However, when we chase life, we chase all the good things in life, we generally chase the Venus in a life, pun intended, and we want the good life, and we do say, okay, we'll do the good things maybe, but this is also important for me, or this is more important for me, or this is important for me first, and the material things sometimes take over. Back of our mind, we always want to do those areas also, or work towards those areas, or contribute towards those areas which are also giving us a good legacy, good name, positive examples, and an example for others also, where they can look up to us also, and maybe move towards moksha, towards salvation also. Now, one thing which is very important is, what is the opportunity that the horoscope gives us to be able to manifest or move towards the moksha. One very ignored entity is the Nakshatra Lord. People give a lot of importance to the Lagna Lord, which has to be given, and then the yogas in the horoscope, where is Saturn placed, where is Jupiter placed, where is Sun placed, what are my best Raj yogas, will I get a lot of wealth, will I get a love marriage or an arranged marriage, will I settle in foreign lands, blah 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 blah. So out of 100 horoscope consultation that I do, 99.9 ones are all around material manifestations. Very rarely do I get a horoscope where somebody says, is there something where I can do, leave a legacy behind, where can I contribute most for others? Rarely have I come across this. People may ask about moksha surely, but even that is a material question. Will I get away from this cycle of life and death and reach the ultimate Lord? That is also agreed, right? But what should we do to be able to manifest the moksha? People don't want to ask. They want to ask, is there an opportunity? Will I get moksha? But rarely would people ask, please tell me some way that I can get moksha. What do I need to do to get moksha? Rather than the question, do I have an opportunity of moksha, or do my planets give me moksha? As if the planetary placements will give you moksha. No planet gives you moksha. That is the ultimate aim. No planet makes you a king. They give you an opportunity of becoming a king. They may give you an opportunity of moving towards moksha. And one of the biggest, strongest elements in moving towards the moksha is your Nakshatra Lord. And that's why I said this is a more ignored entity, especially connected to moksha. The reason being is, people think of the Nakshatra Lord is as a because moon is in the placement of that nakshatra, so that becomes a nakshatra, and so the lord of the planet ruling that nakshatra becomes the Nakshatra Lord. So it's most of the time more material tendencies are given to us, that a person will think like this, or person's life will manifest like that. That is not wrong. However, the karmic baggage, the karma that is attached to the Nakshatra Lord, is overbearing and plays a part in most of the decisions in our life, most of our disseminations in our life, and sometimes they are ignored because we don't see that angle, we don't go that angle. Generally, we look at the characteristics, and which is not wrong. For example, whichever nakshatra your moon is placed in at the time of your birth, your moon or your manifestation, your thinking, your consciousness also takes up the energy of that particular planet. So if moon is in the nakshatra ruled by Venus, there will be elements of Venus or Venus energies in your thought process, because moon is your thinking, moon is also your consciousness, and moon is also a planet which also gives you nurturing tendencies, understanding tendencies, empathy. Without understanding, how can you say you're even conscious? So here the Venus elements, the effeminate elements come in, and the person will also look at things in a more feminine manner. I will not say feminine means the womanly manner. means in a softer manner, not an aggressive manner where Mars would be involved, for example, or leader like if moon was in the nakshatra of sun, for example, where accountability, leadership will play a part, or aggressively as Mars, or maybe with a large heartedness and the wisdom that the Jupiter will give. So those dissemination will surely come in. However, being born in a certain nakshatra has a lot to play with how you are shaped in your life, so that the opportunity and moksha is not missed. I made a video on why we are born in a certain dasha. How is it connected to the nakshatra lord? Because the nakshatra that moon is at the time of our birth, the dasha that first we encounter in the life is the dasha of the lord of that nakshatra. Say moon is placed in the nakshatra of Venus at the time of our birth, so the first dasha that we are born into is the dasha of Venus. If moon is placed in the nakshatra of sun at the time of our birth, then sun's dasha starts first. And in the video which I have explained why we are born in a certain dasha, I have laid why we are born in a certain dasha connected to the foundation laying of our personalities itself. The first 6 or 7 years, even science tells us that we get very hardwired, basis our neighborhood, basis our surrounding, basis the upbringing that we have in the family, based on the desh, kal, patra, what principles and values we are taught, what we are made to fear, what we are made to like, whether we like vegetarian or non-vegetarian. Some of the eating habits also we pick up in the first 6-7 years, the formative years. Our religious beliefs we pick up in those, who's good, who's bad, whether stealing is good or not. All these in the first 6 or 7 years, 90% of that gets hardwired, and hence being born in a certain dasha becomes very, very important, because the dasha lord is most active, and the dasha lord is nothing but the nakshatra lord. And because the dasha lord is very, very active, the dasha lord takes up in the shaping of our personalities in the first 6-7 years. But why is the dasha lord shaping our personalities? Not just because it is active, but because it is also shaping our personalities to give us a certain trajectory in terms of our belief systems, in terms of our principles and values, because those principles and values ultimately will decide and take us on the tangent towards moksha or not, towards salvation or not. So the soul's purpose is to move high up in the realm, in the spiritual realm. That has to be done through your actions, your belief systems, your faith, because your faith, your belief systems, your values, your principles will guide your behavior. Basis your behavior, basis your actions, you will also attract those fruits. Either you go into the patal, the underground, or you rise spiritually and you move up in the spiritual realm. You may move one step up in the spiritual realm, or you may directly get into the highest realm and get into moksha itself. But that all comes through you, to you, through how you behave, what your belief systems are, what is the foundation, what are your values and principles, and have you led your life through those principles and beliefs, or you have chucked them, you have discarded them, you have picked up new ones, maybe better ones, maybe not so better ones, who knows. It's all up to us. So the dasha lord, the nakshatra lord's dasha is important, because that is shaping our personalities and guiding us towards certain principles and values, and giving us, helping us to move towards moksha itself. Secondly, because the moon also, our mannerism of thinking is also led by the nakshatra lord that we are born into, or the nakshatra lord that the moon is placed in. So that also becomes a part of our behavior, a part of our belief system, and it helps us or shapes us towards a certain trajectory of behavior. So if, for example, a moon is in the nakshatra of Mars, then Mars will act strongly in how moon thinks, or the person thinks, or how the person's empathy is. A person's strong empathy may make him, if moon is born in the nakshatra, if the person is born in the nakshatra of moon itself, then double moon, so the person may become overly emotional, overly empathetic, overly understanding, and very, very helpful, where the person may even sacrifice self for others. However, if moon is in the nakshatra of Mars, then moon will still try to help others maybe, but here it will be with aggressiveness, standing up for others, standing up for other people's rights, not taking anything lying down, making strong choices, making assertive choices, living the life with strong willpower and wanting to win, and being very, very goal oriented. So the nakshatra lord's dissemination will be throughout your life, rather than certain dashas or antardashas or transits when a certain planet will be more active or less active. All the planets are active all the time, but they become more active during transits over important houses and during the antardashas, and mostly during the dasha periods also. However, the nakshatra lord, because moon is placed in that nakshatra, and moon, the thinking goes on throughout a life, and hence it plays a strong part throughout a life without letting up. So whichever nakshatra moon is placed in, its lord has a strong bearing on a thinking process, how we lead our life, how we shape our beliefs, our characteristics, and how then through that we have certain behaviors, and through those behaviors we manifest certain results, which may either take, pull us down, or help us rise spiritually and maybe in the world itself. The other thing is, how is it attached to a karmic debt, a karmic baggage? If you see a lot of our mythological stories, the stories are not just mythology, so that we remember. It is, of course, so that we remember because we are able to relate those stories, but those stories also relate us to certain values, various principles, and various karmas that we need to be attached to, and we need to learn from it. For example, if you look at, say, let's take the example of the most famous couple in the Sanatan Dharma, in the Hindu Dharma, now that we are talking about Vedic astrology, that is Lord Ram and Goddess Sita. When you look at Sita's life, she was born in the Pushya or the Pashyami Nakshatra, ruled by Saturn. So the Pushya Nakshatra, prosperity, happiness, all that, flowing of wealth, all that may be given to you, the goodness of life, the goodness in your character, all that may be given to you. So Sita was born in a prosperous family in the palace of the king, though there is a story where she was got from by the king, Raja Janak. However, yet she was brought up in the palace, she was brought up on all the riches, though she came from humble background, she was brought up on all the riches and prosperity, and then she was married through a competition and married to Lord Rama. Who would have a better husband than Lord Rama itself? So you would think that Sita came from humble beginnings, yet was brought up in a palace, and in prosperity. She was married to Ram. That too, Ram had to win her. She was just not given given to Lord Ram. He had to win her in the competition of stringing the bow, and so Ram had to win her. He had to deserve her, and yet, so you would think that she is so lucky. She was brought up in that environment. She was born. She was married to Lord Ram, but she was married at a very, very young age. If you go and look at the Vedas, some say even at 6 years or maybe at 12 years. So she was married at a very young age, and she was brought to the palace of Lord Rama. But what happens? Within a few years, Ram is banished. I don't want to get into the long story, but Ram is banished, and Sita chooses to go with Lord Ram because of her commitment to her husband. So she and Lord Ram and Lakshman, they all are banished for 12 years to the jungle. And what happens in the jungle? They live a very simple life. All the royal adornments are taken away, and then she is kidnapped by Ravana. And when she is kidnapped by Ravana, even then she chooses not to live in a palace. Ravana says, "I can put you in a palace till you decide to you want to be with me." She says no, and then so she's in this Vatika, in this garden, sitting under the tree, under sun and rain and all the vagaries of nature, waiting for Ram to rescue her, because Ram himself was living in the jungle and facing the taunts of the Rakshasas, facing the taunts of Ravana and all the gossip that people do around her to put her off, to influence her. She fights all of that, and eventually she is rescued by Lord Ram, and she comes back to Ayodhya. But what happens? Again, the people, her own kingdom people, don't support her, and she is banished again. When she is banished, she again goes to the jungle, lives in an ashrama. She gives birth to 2 children, who she brings up, her own children, who are the princes. She brings up in very humble beginnings in an ashrama, and eventually Ram doesn't know that the children that they are his children. And long story to cut short, again father and son come facing each other, and they are shooting arrows at each other. What can be more disastrous for a mother to see than her own husband and children trying to kill each other? And then she begs for the earth to separate and take her in, because that's where she came from. The earth separates and she takes her samadhi in the earth itself. The final resting abode for her is the Mother Earth. So if you look at this life seems to be nothing short of tragic, of a tragic life, or life full of travails, even in spite of being born in the Pushya Nakshatra. But which is the Lord of the Pushya Nakshatra? It is Saturn. Saturn is known to extract its karmic debt. It's a karmic equalizer. So lot of what Sita faced was the karmic baggage, the karma that she had to go through, so that she could shed the karmic baggage, so that ultimately she could also rise in the spiritual realm. Then you look at Lord Ram. He was born in the Punarvasu Nakshatra, ruled by Jupiter. And what is Jupiter? The large-hearted deity, the largest one in the solar system, which protects others, is the life giver, the Jiva. So many times he became the life giver to his own enemies, and he would forgive people even when those people tried to kill him. And the Jupiter, the wise person, he was large-hearted to give up the kingdom so that his father could keep his promise. And the wise person, the knowledge-oriented deity, when Ravana was dying, he asked Lakshman, his younger brother, to go and seek learning from Ravana. What learning can you take from a Rakshasa who's dying and who's done all evil things in his life? Yet Ram asked Lakshmana to go and take learning from Ravana. This can only be Jupiter who behaves like this. And the wise person, sacrificing his wife, sacrificing his kingdom, sacrificing his brother, sacrificing his children, ultimately sacrificing himself for his praja, for his people. So both the lives, if you connect them to the nakshatras, tragic lives, not so lucky lives, tough lives, though very good nakshatras, but the nakshatra lords played a lot of part in how their karmic baggage played out. So whichever nakshatra you are born in, that nakshatra lord will be one of the biggest tests in life. It won't be easy. So whichever houses they rule, and in the dissemination of that, there will also be direct impact on the lagna, because the nakshatra lord is where the moon is playing its part, the thinking is playing its part. However, because you're born in the nakshatra, the whole life is controlled by that. So your dignity, your status in life, your stature in life, your respect, your elevation in life will all get connected to how you behave with the nakshatra lord energies and how you disseminate or manifest it. And so the houses that they are connected to also becomes very important. So if you're born in the Aries sign, your lagna is Aries, but moon is placed in the nakshatra of Venus. Venus rules your second house and your seventh house here. So how you are using the energies of Venus will also impact the lagna itself. Though Venus has no connection with the lagna here, neither does it rule the lagna, neither maybe it may not even be placed with the lagna or under the aspect of the lagna lord. Yet wherever Venus is placed, however you're manifesting, the signification, the karaka of Venus will have a direct impact on your elevation in life and your respect in life. You will find that Venus from time to time, especially during its important transits and its dashas and antardashas strongly, but in general, because it's a nakshatra lord, will keep putting you in those circumstances where you will have to make choices, tough choices, and it will also test you on materialism, because Venus is about materialism, about relationships. Venus is about relationships and balancing. So Venus will test you out whether you are able to balance between your relationships or not, whether you go on the unethical path towards materialism or not, how you behave with and relate to and deal with the opposite gender or not, whether you are on a slippery ground here or not. And that will not only affect your overall life, but also your respect, your dignity and your legacy and your karma, whether you are able to shed your karmic debt or not, because Venus will test you. One of the most toughest tests will be put to you by your nakshatra lord. And then whichever houses the nakshatra lord rules, those houses will also be the most trying for you. If you're born in the nakshatra of Venus and Venus is your fifth lord, then children will be a strong test for you. Speculative investments will be a test for you. Investments may be a test for you. Your love and romance may be a test for you, especially because Venus is the karaka of intimacy and love. Your relationships will be a strong test for you. In your romantic relations, you may go through ups and downs, breakups also, and then Venus will keep testing you from time to time and checking whether you will be able to, whether you are ready to be able to give more than to take, because it's about giving more to leave a strong legacy behind, a positive legacy behind. A positive legacy is not about gaining. Positive legacy is about giving and doing for others, because we are born here to serve others, and through serving others, serving the Supreme Lord. So whichever nakshatra you are born in, learn to give more about that. Learn to have more ethical behavior about that nakshatra Lord. Learn to be more giving and be more careful about whichever houses it controls. And only through that you will be able to rise spiritually. And in your toughest times, you will see that nakshatra Lord in some way or the other will get connected to your ethics, to your morals, to your choices. If you make good choices where you are not putting yourself forward, but you're putting family, friends, society, country, the world at large, and social causes ahead of you, then the nakshatra Lord will also be more easy on you and will also give you good opportunities. However, if you make more wrong choices, if you make unethical choices, if you make immoral choices, if you make materialistic oriented choices, if you put yourself first, then the testing will continue, the trials will continue, the downfalls will continue. So whichever nakshatra Lord your nakshatra you are born in, be very, very careful which houses the nakshatra rules, how you make choices related to the relationship that the nakshatra entails. For a woman, if you are born in the nakshatra ruled by Jupiter, your relationship both with your husband and your father and your gurus and all elder men in your family and your superiors, managers who are men, all become very, very important. All of them become a test. For a man, Venus becomes very, very important, connected to relationship. Saturn becomes very, very important because of how you are able to commit. You are able to showcase your commitment, your diligence, your patience, your perseverance connected to work, whether you are a man or woman. So be very, very careful how you are able to deal with the significations of your nakshatra Lord. See where your nakshatra Lord is placed, the dissemination of that house, which houses the nakshatra Lord placed, whether it's in good yoga or in dosha, what aspects it is in, and based on that then understand how the nakshatra Lord is taking you more towards your karma, towards salvation, or becomes the biggest test or the biggest stumbling block to salvation itself. So guys, like this video, share this video, and if you're looking for a personal consultation for me, please reach out to me at the links given below. Until some other time with some other video, this is a friend astrologer and guide Irfan signing off. Ciao.